Hello, everyone. So I am from Italy, and as you probably know, Italians always love to talk about food. So we really always love to talk about that. So it was so natural to me to open this speech with a big image of a plate of pasta, like spaghetti al pomodoro, like for example. But when the organizer told me that my speech was scheduled at 8:30 in the morning, so it was too early and it's not good timing for a plate of pasta. It's not always timing for a plate of pasta, even for an Italian. So I decided to insert the image of a breakfast, of a typical breakfast, since it's more or less breakfast time. This is, you can see it on the screen. Can you recognize this plate, this dish? No, more or less. No, it's not like breakfast polenta. This is a typical English breakfast. It's bacon and eggs. And maybe that it's hardly to recognize because the typical bacon and eggs that you have in your mind is probably something more similar to this one. Okay? The point is that this dish is created with the technique of molecular cuisine. I am not an expert of molecular cuisine, but some times ago I was watching TV and there was this documentary showing the main techniques of molecular cuisine and showing the work of Ferran Adrià, which is the main chef operating with this technique. And I understood that molecular cuisine is based upon two main techniques. The fragmentation of the ingredients of the recipe in order to reshape the recipe itself, giving a different shape. So, fragmentation and reshaping. So, when I watched the documentary, I understood that this was perfectly matching my vision of the current communication scenario. So, we have entered the era of molecular communication. Molecular communication is, first of all, fragmentation. I mean that the content now is split into several small pieces of content. Here, I listed some of the very successful projects in several fields. I mean, education, communication, information, entertainment, and so on. All of these have in common the fragmentation matter. The most famous example is iTunes, because once upon a time, we were used to buy an album made by several songs, so 10 to 15 songs. So the content was the album. Now the content is each single song. We can see fragmentation also in TV series. Do you know House of Cards? So I mentioned only one, but there is a huge amount of successful TV series now. This is the era of TV series. Why? Once again, because they are short, they are fragmented. Netflix decided to publish in the same day all the 13 episodes of the first season of House of Cards. So 13 episodes of 1 hour each. So technically speaking, it is just like to release a very long movie, a movie of 13 hours. But of course, no one wants to see a movie so long. But everyone wants to see 13 episodes of 1 hour each. So fragmentation. Fragmentation also means shortness. So the content now is shortened than in the past. Here we have a couple of projects whose main feature is the shortness. Twitter, 130 characters, and TED. Every TED speech has a limited amount of time of 18 minutes. Like here in Information Energy, we have 20 minutes for our speech. And if you think about that, I don't know, 5 years ago, in the conference all over the world, the typical length of a conference was 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. Now it should be a very long time compared to our rhythm in current life. Then I want to mention the last project, X Factor. X Factor is one of the most successful projects for TV format worldwide in a lot of countries. X Factor is made like a TV show, an entire content made by, 10 performers, okay? I think that a great part of the X Factor success is due to what happened to the format the day next. Because the day after the show, the content is fragmented into several performances, several videos, and each video has his own line over the web. So people are free to share it easily, and people, very important thing, can decide their own show scheduling. So I can decide to see performance number 7, then move to performance number 3, then move to something else, maybe the performance of last year, and so on. Do you know this guy? He's a teenager. Maybe you don't know him because it's a typical teenager. He's 17. To tell the truth, he's not so typical, it's not so common, because he's a multimillionaire. Okay? His name is Nick D'Aloisio, and like a lot of guys of his age, he had a lot of homework to do, assigned by the school. So one day he decided to create an app that was able to summarize content. So summarize a big amount of content into a short text, maintaining the keywords, key message. So this app is able to create automatically a recap, a summary. Yahoo decided to acquire this app for 30 million euros. So he's becoming multimillionaire. But the most important thing in this story is that there is a big player, big company, that decided to invest a huge amount of money for a tool that is impoverish a content. So it's not enriching the content, but is impoverish it. And this is quite strange because we are moving from this volumes economy, so from an economy in which the content creators or journalists, for example, were paid according to volumes. So we're paid according to the number of pages they produced. Now, in this new economy, the main capability, the main key to success is the capability to summarize content in an effective way. If you think about that, the Google value proposition is based upon this synthesis economy, because Google is summarizing a big amount of content, the World Wide Web, into some search results in an effective way, once again. The fragmentation thing is perfectly matching the evolution of human brain. I mean that now, human brain capability to focus over a long content is getting lower and lower, because now we prefer short content, and we prefer short content in the same time. So we prefer to be overstimulated by several stimulus. When, for example, we are watching TV, TV is monostimulus, okay? It's only one channel. So since this is not enough for our brain, we ourselves try to create some new layer of complexity. So it's very common to see that people are using their mobile phone by chatting or tweeting what is happening in the TV show. Okay, this was technique number 1, fragment your content. This is the technique number 1 to face the molecular communication era. Now, about this multi-stimulus approach. I read a research that was showing which is the average day of a teenager. So the average amount of time spent in different activities during the day. So eating, sleeping, and so on. The most interesting fact in this research was the sum of all the timing was 27 hours. So it means that a teenager is living 27 hours a day. How is it possible? Because basically they are doing more things at the same time, especially when these things are communication or information. So once again, we are moving from a synthesis economy we mentioned before to the attention economy. The main capability of attention economy is the capability to catch and retain attention. This will also be a game changer for advertising industry, for example, because up to now, advertising is paying according to volumes. So according to the number of users that you have, the number of audience you run in a TV show, and so on. But since we are exposed to different media at the same time, advertising will stop to pay according to volumes, but they will start to pay according to our level of attention in each media. And so there will be some technology that will be quickly will be able to measure our attention level in each single media. So, how we can catch and retain attention of our user as a content creator. This is technique number 2, creating layers of complexity. So the point is that since we know that our users will create themselves some layers, it is better for us if we create them so that they can stay inside our content, inside the content that we have prepared. Here I have some examples to show you better in a practical way what I mean. CNN or Bloomberg, this is the typical layout of an information TV, like this is Bloomberg, I suppose. Yeah, Bloomberg. As you can see, there is the main channel, the girl, and then there are a lot of different layers. These layers are in some way distracting you from the main channel, but otherwise you are remaining inside this framework because you are distracted, but you are distracted by something that is created by the Bloomberg itself. So this will avoid you to change the channel to another television. There is another way in which television are designed in order to maintain the attention inside the channel. Since they know, like I mentioned before, since they know that you are using your mobile phone while watching TV, they have launched the second screen technology. So they have created some new layers, a new layer of content through which the user can experience more about what he's watching on the TV, the second screen. Then I have here another example that one of my favorite case history, because it's not based upon technology, so it's very sophisticated from the concept point of view. It is a very old technology, the book. Okay, book made by real paper. This concept is a concept designed by J.J. Abrams, so the creator of Lost, so a guy who knows how to retain people's attention. It seems to be a very normal book. It's a book that tells the story of a ship and the sea, the adventure of this ship, and so on. But the very interesting part of the concept is that this book belongs to a public library. And there are these two guys that used to borrow the book from the public library in shift, and both of them are writing down their personal notes on the margin of the page. So, as a final result, you have 3 different layers of complexity. The layer number 1, that is the normal book, and then you have the layer number 2 and layer number 3 that are the personal notes made by the guys. And so you can decide how to live, how to experience the 3 levels of storytelling, 3 levels of different narration. There is one big difference between the users in molecular cuisine and the users in molecular communication, because the users in molecular cuisine is quite happy to sit down, relax, and enjoy the dinner. Unfortunately, for content creators, users in molecular communication don't want to relax. They want to enter the kitchen, and they want in some way put their hand on the recipe. So they want an active role on the content creation itself. So this is technique number 3. So give the users the chance to act. When I mean act, I mean to do something, to do whatever you want, but let them interact. Like in video game industry, one of the great inspiration for content creators and for information and communication future. Here I have a couple of videos that are showing what I mean with interaction. The first video is quite brilliant because I choose this project in order to show you that interaction can be very, very limited. So in this video, there is a project of the launch of a new model of Honda. And the only requirement, the only thing that is required to do for the users is to push a button. So you can decide to push a button or not to push this button. I can show you the video so you can understand what I mean. so an easy concept. The only thing you have to do is push this button, and pushing this button, basically you can move to another story. There is the main story, then there is another layer, another storytelling that is showing another story that is similar to the first one, but with some different feature, we can say. This is very catching from attention point of view, because you want to see on the other part, and by pushing the button, in some way, you are missing some pieces of the original story, but it's not a problem for your brain, because your brain wants to be catched by what is happening in the interactivity. I have another example that is similar to the previous one from the concept point of view, but it's more, we can say, more sophisticated from the technological point of view, because it's, there is a level of immersiveness that is higher. It's an example of interactive movie. Maybe you know it. It's not so recent. It's a project from Germany that has some years. It's called Last Call. We can launch the video so then we can comment it.
In regular horror movies, the viewer's role is always the same. With 13th Street, the horror film becomes an interactive thrill. The viewers play their own part and are able to communicate with the protagonist. We developed a software that allows for such a dialogue via voice recognition. A flyer invites viewers to send their phone numbers to a speed dial database. The software selects an audience member and phones him or her. Then, through voice recognition, a dialogue between viewer and protagonist takes place.
Hallo? Hallo! Du musst mir helfen. Ich weiß nicht, wo ich hier bin. Bleib dran, ja? Ja. Okay.
The answers are converted into commands, and the software plays out the corresponding scene. Because of this, each caller creates a different film. Not only do the viewers hear the protagonist's voice on the phone, they experience her steps, her breathing, her entire fear up close and parallel with the film.
Links oder rechts?
Links.
Soll ich rauf oder runter?
Runter.
Hör zu. Da unten ist jemand.
Dann geh hoch.
Okay. Was soll ich tun? Soll ich helfen oder weiter?
Weiter.
Helfen.
Geh weiter.
Jetzt bist du dran. Ich hab ja deine Nummer.
Scheiße. Wir brauchen ein neues Handy.
The film hit.
Okay. This is about interactivity, and this is about immersiveness. That is one of the, it will be one of the main drivers in the competitive arena of attention. But as you can see from this example, the concept is the same than previous one. So it's always a choice of A or B, because here it seems to be that you can do whatever you want, but you can't. Basically, there are some structure in the narration, and you can choose between up or down, left or right, and so on. So exactly the same than the previous one. Technique number 4, that is the last one. Create a framework. Create a word. So once again, since we know that our user will move, it is better for us if he will move inside a framework that we build, so that he is staying in our content. This is perfect for entertainment, for education, for training, for a lot of communication and information purposes. What do I mean with this word creating? I do not have a video, but I have a description of a very brilliant project. Prison Valley. This is a web documentary made in French that is describing the story of this valley in Colorado in which there are 13,000 inhabitants and there are 13 prisons. So it's called a prison valley because the amount of prison compared to the area is very huge. And so there is this interesting documentary. The interesting choice that the two creators made was not to tell the story in a linear way, in the typical documentary of 1 hour length, but they decided to put all the data that they collected, all the videos, all the audio, all the image, all the statistics, they put them online, and they created more or less a virtual world in which the user can move freely. So it's free to register. When you log in, you are inside the hotel room that it's the hotel room of a journalist, and you can decide to move in the way that you prefer inside the valley. So you can move in the street, you can meet people, you can collect data, you can live the experience that you decide. The interesting thing in this scenario is that every user is living a different experience of a documentary that is different from all the other users. And so that is what I mean when I say create a world. Okay, so I suppose that my 20 minutes is over. So if I could ask Nick D'Aloisio to use his app to summarize what I have said, where all my slides in a single slide, I think that he will choose a slide like this. So these are not rules, but these are my suggestion in order to face the era of molecular communication. So that's all. These are my contacts if you want to keep in touch. Bye-bye.